And welcome to Hannity, and we are 43 days away from an inflection point for this country. That is the 2024 election. Early voting now underway in multiple states, including Pennsylvania, Virginia, and elsewhere. And tonight I start with good news, and there's a little bad news. The good news first. Donald Trump is performing very well in multiple new polls. University of Mary Washington survey shows that Donald Trump is deadlocked in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's a state Biden won by 10 points. Meanwhile, a New York Times Siena poll has President Trump up by 5 in Arizona, 4 in Georgia, 2 in North Carolina. On top of last week, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they had Trump up 3 in Georgia. Georgia, North Carolina, must-win states for Donald Trump. Now, these were polls of likely voters, which is typically more accurate than, quote, registered voters. But you got to keep this in mind. The New York Times poll traditionally skews left. In 2020, this very same poll was off by 5 points in North Carolina, 5 points in Pennsylvania, off by 6 in Arizona, and a whopping 11 points in Wisconsin. Now, other polls also seem to skew to the left in 2020 and 2016, for that matter. At this very same time, 4 years ago, Donald Trump was down by 7 in the Real Clear Politics average nationwide. A month later, he was down by 10. An Economist YouGov poll had Trump down by 10. And by the way, that's right before the election. Another poll right before the election from NBC News had Trump down by 10. In the end, 44,000 votes in 3 states made all the difference in 2020. Never mind, of course, the FBI pre-bunking the very real Hunter Biden laptop story by meeting weekly with big tech in the months before that election. They verified the authenticity of Hunter's very real laptop from hell in March of 2020. But then when they were asked about it after the New York Post broke the story, we can't confirm or deny, when they knew damn well it was true. So let's be clear. You cannot let any poll or betting market affect you emotionally or in any way whatsoever. You can't listen to the political pundits. You can't let them impact how you feel. And by the way, you have often, is the case, biased news organizations. They will try to deflate voter enthusiasm, and they try to create a narrative that the election is over. There's absolutely no reason for you to vote. There's not the chance in hell your guy's going to win. Nobody can tell you right now, nobody with any degree of accuracy, how this election is going to turn out. They can guess. They can use their best methodology. They might end up being right, but my advice is don't let anybody, especially in the corrupt state-run media mob, impact what you want for your country. At this point, the only person that really knows what the outcome is, that would be God. Now, naturally, the state-run media mob, they're working overtime. They want to elect Kamala Harris. They want Donald Trump defeated at all costs. They have done nothing but go after this man for nearly a full decade. Now, the coverage against President Trump, it's like 95% on some networks negative. Kamala Harris up to 100% positive. Trump is evil, and Kamala is the second coming that gets a complete pass and gets to stay in the candidate protection program. The latest strategy includes the new allegations. Look at what's going on in North Carolina with their Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson. He is accused of making offensive comments that no conservative or Republican would ever agree with. Now, I don't know. We don't know if the allegations are true. It's odd. He's been in office 3 years, and apparently nobody or very few people in North Carolina knew much about any of this. And if it wasn't big news in North Carolina, then Donald Trump certainly didn't know either. Now, this is the Harris campaign. They're trying to smear, as usual, former President Trump for something that nobody or few people knew about, if in fact it's even true. The campaign even launched a guilt by association ad blasting Donald Trump's prior endorsement of Robinson. Others are even trying to connect now Trump to P. Diddy, who he said something nice about years and years and years ago. But at the very same time, no one in the media mob seems to care about Kamala Harris and her effusive praise of P. Diddy, now credibly accused of horrible sex crimes and indicted. Now, did either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris know a thing about P. Diddy? I pretty much can say with certainty, I doubt it. No one in the media cares about Kamala's past support. Remember Jussie Smollett and the hate crime hoax? Kamala Harris once promoted that. She rushed to judgment What did she say? I think she called it a modern-day lynching, and I don't think she ever took that down or took it back. Almost no one has called on Harris to distance herself from her radical California pastor, you know, the guy who blamed 9/11 on America only days after the attack during a sermon that even Nancy Pelosi condemned. In fact, the same pastor was invited to give the DNC's convention prayer, and no one in the media mob batted an eyelash. They didn't care. Another one of Kamala's favorite preachers said that Christianity has been hijacked by white supremacy. But the vice president, he's never been asked about that preacher, never asked to condemn that preacher. No Trump ads tying her to the preacher. And, you know, after she was hired by the campaign on top of it. Kamala's running mate, Tim Walz, he preys on a Muslim cleric, you might remember, from Minnesota, who celebrated the October 7th Islamic radical terrorist attacks on Israel, losing the equivalent of 40,000 Americans in a day, and shared pro-Hitler propaganda online. Anyone in the media ever talk about this? And yet this story barely made the news. Meanwhile, the Harris campaign proudly touting the endorsement of the union that represents the IRS. Wow, what a great endorsement. She can't get the endorsement of the Teamsters, especially rank and file, but America's tax collectors love Kamala Harris. The media mob, they're dutifully overjoyed. What an endorsement. Now, of course, the state-run media mob also refuses to hold Kamala accountable for her radical positions. We have been pointing this out now for months, and they still don't ask the fundamental basic questions because they seem perfectly happy reading statements from anonymous campaign ads who just claim that Kamala no longer supports the very extreme positions she has stated in her own words. I have the Kamala files on Hannity.com, my social media. Why? It's a public service so that you can share it on social media with friends, family, neighbors, coworkers. She's on tape saying the most insane, radical things I've ever heard from any presidential candidate, and repeatedly making her positions very clear that she's now running away from, and the media is allowing her to hide. Now, this includes Kamala's steadfast support for a total fracking ban. Guess what? No shocker, over the weekend, another video surfaced showing Kamala's strong stance against fracking. Take a look.
Climate change is the single greatest threat facing our world today. That's why I am committed to passing a Green New Deal, creating clean jobs, and finally putting an end to fracking once and for all.
Wow. Is anyone going to ask Kamala why she has, suddenly and mysteriously changed her position now? How is that? Is anybody in the media mob, will they ask Kamala about the border czar's stance against deporting illegal immigrants? Take a look at this.
Up with education, down, down with deportation. Up with education, down, down with deportation. Up with education, down, down with deportation.
Let's go, everybody. No deportation. Break our laws, no problem. Is she still against deporting illegal immigrants? Because as the border czar, that definitely seemed to be the case. In fact, remember, she also has publicly, in her own words, supported decriminalizing illegal immigration, taxpayer-funded health care, housing, food, education, and even sex change surgery for illegal immigrants with your tax dollars. She allowed people with known terror ties into your country. Dozens of Americans have been murdered and raped and victims of violent crime, all perpetrated by Harris and Biden unvetted illegal immigrants. Is anybody ever going to ask her about these radical, extreme, frankly, almost unbelievable positions? Because our very own Sarah Carter, she talked to voters. They're not happy. Take a look.
Is it frustrating to see all the people that have come in because they haven't been properly vetted? It's just been illegal influx. Yes. So you have a lot of criminal networks from Venezuela, Absolutely. From other parts of the world. I mean, mixed in with the good people, but exactly. There's so many criminals flooding in, they're not going to be able to find them all to get them out.
Exactly. Once they're in, it's a lot harder to just, get them out. So it's just a never-ending cycle with this administration.
I think at this point right now, with the amount of people that have come across on the terrorist list, we're just waiting for the next 9/11 basically to occur.
So I take it that you would not be all about open borders policy.
Oh my God, who would?
How about the border issue, the border crisis?
Terrible.
Yeah.
That should have never happened.
Should have never happened.
Should have never happened.
How do you feel about the fact that Kamala Harris in the past has supported the policy to use taxpayer dollars to pay for transgender surgery for illegal detained migrants?
It's ridiculous. She's spending money on people that don't even belong here, and we're not even taking care of the people that are here, even like our own vets, people that are veterans. I mean, everyday civilians that live here in our own country. We're not even dealing with our own people.
To use taxpayer dollars to do that is kind of a betrayal of us as the American people, especially us as cattle ranchers. I mean, we pay for a lot of stuff, and we work our fingers to the bone day in, day out. So to hear that is kind of like a backstab.
4 more years of Kamala would be a
Disaster.
And the Green New Deal, eliminate the filibuster. You get government health care for all and no private insurance option. Trump and J.D. Vance, they're talking to Americans every day about these issues. They do press conferences, they do town halls, they do interview after interview after interview. And Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, on the other hand, barely get out from behind a teleprompter and a short speech that always seems to be the same. The state-run media mob, they don't mind. In fact, they're happy to do the heavy lifting while Kamala hides in plain sight. Take a look.
I don't think it's a lot to ask her to sit down for a real interview as opposed to a puff piece in which she describes like her feelings of growing up in Oakland with nice lawns.
Then I would just say to that, when you move to Nirvana, give me your real estate broker's number and I'll be your next door neighbor. We don't live there.
I know that we would love, or you would love, to see her sit down every single day with CNN and do interviews, but she's a very busy person. She's the vice president as well as a candidate.
These events are, part of a strategy that the Harris campaign is putting out there, which is to largely avoid doing interviews. They're not necessarily settings that where she shines, so they're doing this instead.
There's only 40+ days left. Don't they need to be out there more?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, they're out there all the time. They're out there talking to voters all the time. And I think that the vice president has also said that she's going to be talking to more reporters, both national as well as local reporters. And I think that's a good thing.
They're talking at the voters. They're not listening to and answering their questions. But the media's helping hand. It doesn't stop there, because both Walz and Kamala have also been given a free pass for their disgraceful conduct during the summer of 2020, mostly peaceful rioting, 574 of them. That's when Walz let Minneapolis, half burned to the ground. Kamala promoting a bail fund 4 days after a police precinct was burned to the ground to get the rioters back out on the street, and then said the rioters won't stop rioting. They shouldn't stop, and she wouldn't stop supporting them. But I do agree with Walz on one issue. One issue. We can't afford 4 more years of this. Take a look.
She simply has said it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. We can't afford 4 more years of this.
We can't afford 4 more years of this. Well done, Timmy. Good job. No one in the state-run media mob seems to care. After all, they have an election to win at all costs. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.